Hey, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm joined by Anthony Curtis, who runs Las Vegas Advisor and Huntington Press, and Michael Kaplan, who has a new book out on Huntington Press called Advantage Players. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Doing great. Always good to be in Vegas.
Yeah, good to be here with you guys. Anthony, I'll start with you. What is new with Las Vegas right now? What's the word on the street?
It's kind of strange. 2025 has been quiet. It's been a very quiet year. The big news that just came out literally a day ago is that the Cromwell, formerly Barbary Coast, the Cromwell is going to become Vanderpump. Lisa Vanderpump, I guess. I don't know. Who is she? She's like a famous wife of somebody or something. I don't know. But anyway, we have these Vanderpump restaurants all over Vegas, and they're going to change and rebrand the casino to a Vanderpump.
And what else is new? I've been following the news a little bit, and it seems like maybe profits haven't been as high lately.
You hit that one right. I mean, everybody's looking at that 2025 is going to be a scary year, they say, for the casinos. I mean, since the pandemic, it's been this, my least favorite phrase of all time is pent-up demand, right? Pent-up demand. But it's been true. And people have been rushing the doors of the casinos, and the casinos could do anything they want, raise resort fees, raise parking fees, make the games worse on everything, table games, video poker schedules, and the people keep coming. Well, there's been several months now of less than was the year before. And the prognosticators are starting to say, look out, it's starting to finally turn the other way, which is good for the customer, because now all of a sudden the casinos are going to start giving more back. They're going to start promoting more. They're going to quit raising rates. They're going to, that sort of thing.
Well, let's hope so. I'm a little cynical, and it feels like when it's doing well in Vegas, they make the games worse. When it's doing poorly, they say, we got to get a bigger hold, and so they make the games worse.
No, not really. It kind of goes the other way around. And I'll give you an example. The Rio, just now, the Rio was taken over. It was run by Caesars. Caesars ran it to the ground, to be honest. And it was taken over by a New York group. And it just came out a couple days ago that their video poker was mediocre, and they're putting in 9-6 jacks or better throughout the casino, at the bars, everything else. I think it's a reaction to numbers, is really. And 9-6 video poker, that's a 0.5% edge for the casino. Great game, and I think we see more of that.
Yeah, we interviewed Bill Zender, and he was talking about that he's always followed an approach of, if you try to take the customer for too much, they end up, you make less from them. And there's kind of this point at which it's worse to have that high of a house edge. And so he would actually have really good deck penetration, favorable rules, and his casinos did really well. And I'm hoping that more casino operators listen to that advice.
Actually, Michael, when we started talking about this before the interview, said something like what? Like the people are sick of being...
Yeah, I think people are sick of being overcharged for everything. Like part of the cool thing of coming to Vegas always was, well, you're going to lose money in the casino, but you're going to make it up, but with a 99-cent shrimp cocktail or free parking, or, there's a lot of perks to being here, so you don't mind so much. And then when the perks go away, you're like, well, what am I doing? And then you're like, well, I can actually drive an hour and go gamble somewhere else, or do it at home on my phone. So I don't know. I think it becomes difficult for people to justify coming if they feel like they're getting, raked over the coals financially.
And the casinos are reactive. They really are. They look at their numbers and they react long before. When they see the trend going, they start to move. And what do we do at Las Vegas Advisor? We monitor this stuff, and we look at values, and we're seeing better things showing up. And I think it's reaction. I really do.
Good. Because now you're out $25 just parking in the parking garage before you even get into the casino.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, the parking is brutal. I mean, and it would be so easy for them to say, listen, I get it. Like, we don't want people just leaving their cars here for days on end, or parking here and spending the whole day roaming the strip. If they said, look, if you buy in for $25 in a blackjack game, you could get it validated. If you go eat in a restaurant, you can get it validated. So if you're giving them business, why not just give you free parking? It would be so easy to do. It wouldn't be hard.
So what's new at Las Vegas Advisor or Huntington Press? Anything fresh off the press or about to be fresh off the press outside of Advantage Players?
Yeah, it's really, all the attention has been on Advantage Players, because we've been going around about with this for a couple of years now. And perfectionist. He wants to read it again. How many times have you read your own book?
I've read it a few times, and then I make a lot of changes.
I'm finally I put my foot down. I go, we've got to get this thing out. So we are finishing that up right now. But we've got right on its heels, we've got one called Breaking the Slot Code, which is about the advantage play slot machines. We got All About Sports Betting by Blair Rodman, which we've tried to bring out the last couple of years, but we keep fidgeting with that one too, but that's going to come out before football season. We've got a new book by an author named Larson on Blackjack, and the name isn't quite set yet, but I haven't accepted a Blackjack book in quite a while, and this one's special, this one's different. So we're doing that. All of these things are kind of happening at once, and then there's James Grosjean's follow-up to The Ultimate Report, which is The Ultimate Report Lockdown Edition, and that one is also pretty close. We're going to have a flurry of them coming out in the next few months.
Did you get any blowback from Grosjean's book?
Blowback from?
Yeah,
from who?
From putting that out. I don't know.
Advantage from players?
Yeah.
Well, no, because the Ultimate Report is nothing but basic strategies. There's nothing in there that's going to take you over the hump. But what it does is it takes the average, civilian, as he likes to call them, who's playing at double-digit disadvantages, sometimes over 20%, and takes them down to where they're supposed to be, which is at 3 to 4% most of the time. So not much blowback at all. Most people going, congratulations on smacking the casinos in the face with this good, information. Now the next one, there might be some blowback, except there's going to be things that Grosjean tells that nobody else knows anyway. So, what the hell?
Are you expecting any blowback from the slot book, Advantage slot book?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah, we're going to get plenty from that. And I don't care because it's out there now. We held off on that for a long time. Even things like Ultimate X, which is a beatable, variable state game that you can play. We didn't say anything about it for a long time and let everybody have their way, but it's out there now. So we're now going to, we're going to bring it to the public with accurate information.
And Andrew Yule, he's got another book coming out.
Yeah, his a little bit down the line, but his was the Blackjack Insiders. And there's a bunch of, tentatively the working title is Blackjack Insiders 2, The Untold Stories. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming from both sides, both as a player and him as a pit boss. And it's a good one too. We're just signing that this week.
Let's talk about Advantage players. What spawned the writing of this book?
So it's sort of an interesting process. I've written a lot of articles about advantage plays. I've written a lot of articles, about gamblers. I've been doing the Cigar Aficionado column for over 20 years, and I've written a lot about it. And Anthony said, well, how about doing a book, just a collection of articles you've written? I'm like, all right, that sounds easy. So I put them together, sent it off, and I was like, between Anthony, Deke, and I, we decided it's kind of a boring idea. And it sort of evolved into a book about advantage players in gambling and out of gambling with some new stuff written that's never been anywhere. There's a great chapter on Don Johnson, which is incredibly interesting because I did a long interview with him at his house a few years ago. We talked about doing a book together, which didn't happen. But I had the interview and I was like, I should, turn this into something. And it's an amazing, if I do say so myself, I'm biased, but it's an amazing chapter. There's long introductions kind of linking everything together. And one interesting component is it looks at advantage play outside of casinos. There are there are a lot of advantage players who are not gamblers, like the Safdie brothers. Those are these film directors, the guys that did Uncut Gems. They're advantage players. David Blaine is in there. He's an advantage player. Heidi Fleiss, the famous Hollywood madam. I mean, she overturned the way that business worked. There's a guy named Stefan Simkowitz who's an art dealer in LA, and he figured out a way to kind of beat the galleries at their own game. They're all just like people in casinos beating casino games, but they're doing it in life. And I hope people read it and go after the casinos and get inspired to try to beat the casinos, but also get inspired to beat life, get inspired to do things differently than the people that you are involved with or how you've been doing it before and figure it out.
Who would you say is the target audience? Is it for people that are interested in advantage play, but then to broaden their horizons outside of the casino, or is it for people outside, but then to give them a taste of those beating casinos?
Yeah, see, my opinion is that I hope people will read it who are not in the gambling world. I mean, I think people in gambling, it's kind of an easy sell to them. I mean, yeah, do you want to read an article, like a 10,000 word chapter about James Grosjean? Yeah, you probably do. By a guy who actually played with James Grosjean on a play, I BP'd for him. Yeah, you might want to read that. That might be interesting to those people. But a lot of people don't know who James Grosjean is. And if you're just a regular person, you might read that and be inspired to like figure out an advantage play as a CPA, or an advantage play as a mom or an actor, or, you know, as a journalist. I mean, I think it's going to have a broad reach is my hope. And I mean, there's like kind of a dual chapter in there. It's called The Kelly and Phil Show, about Kelly's son and Phil Ivey, because I did a big story on Phil Ivey for Playboy, and I did a story on Kelly's son for Cigar Aficionado. I'm the only journalist she's ever spoken to. That's really interesting because it tells her story, it tells Phil's story, and then I added new stuff that kind of, you know, pulls them together a little bit. And the one interesting thing is, when I was interviewing Phil for Playboy, he said, yeah, I'm not going to talk about the thing with Kelly's son. That was like an agreement. But of course, I kept trying to get him to talk about it. And we're in his honey wagon outside of the Rio. You know, all the big poker players, they get these kind of Hollywood-style, you know, trailers to hang out in when they're not playing. We're in there and we're about to start talking. All of a sudden, this woman walks in, this Asian with giant sunglasses. She goes, "Phil, baby." And I'm like, holy smokes, that's Kelly's son. And Phil goes, he stands up and goes, "You got to leave," to me. I'm like, I think it'd be good for the story if I stay. He goes, "No, we got to talk business." And I'm just sitting there for a minute, seeing if it'll blow over. He's got a bodyguard. The bodyguard stands up. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm losing this battle. And I walked out, and I've talked to Kelly about it. She goes, "Yeah, that was me," because I didn't know 100% that it was her. But I'm like, well, who else is it going to be? It seemed pretty likely that it was Kelly. And yeah, I actually just talked to her about it recently. I actually wanted to triple check that I was, because I mean, it's pretty clear that it was her. And she said, yeah, that was me. She remembered it. So it's cool. There's like cool inside stories that people in that world would find interesting. But then, I mean, there's other stuff in there that I think a lot of people will find really interesting, as well as a personal story about myself that I think people will find interesting and jarring if they know me.
Okay. How did you decide which casino advantage players to put in the book?
Some of it was almost like no-brainers. Like, I mean, Rob Wrightson is such an interesting guy. I mean, as Max Rubin put it to me, he's taken more money out of casinos than anyone else. Alan Woods, I mean, you know, the horse racing guy from Hong Kong. It's like a great story. And I mean, then, you know, it crosses over to have Bill Benter stuff in it. Bill Benter's another guy who's not 100% talked to me. He's talked to me maybe 3%. But, you know, it's sort of, there's just like all the big heavy hitters. I mean, I did, when I was interviewed yesterday for the Gaming Protection Conference, Willie asked me, he said, "Oh, who's on the Mount Rushmore of APs?" And, you know, they're all people from this book. I mean, Don Johnson is in it, Grosjean, John Chang. I mean, it's a pretty stellar crew. Gina, you know, Miss Brown, as they call her, is in it. It's really like, I mean, if I didn't write the book, I would want to read it.
We had a lot of conversations about who's in and who's out. And some people were in for sure. And I'll tell you what we did do is we pulled out a lot of poker. Because it's all poker. And if you're not a poker player, you're kind of like, okay. You know, and we made a conscious decision. There's poker in it, but we pulled out a lot of good poker stories.
So in the sections outside of casino advantage play, what kind of people do you cover? What are the different categories?
Well, there's the Safdie brothers. They're the guys who directed the movie Uncut Gems. I mean, you know, like their advantage play is getting people who are not really actors and getting amazing performances out of them. I mean, like Julia Fox, who plays, you know, the girlfriend of the jewelry dealer in Uncut Gems. I mean, she'd never acted before. And, you know, her great line is, "Honey, I've been dating billionaires all my life. This is not like, you know, something new." But to get people who haven't, because I interviewed Ron Shelton once, the guy who directed Tin Cup, and he said to me, it's really, this was prior to all this, and I have it in the Safdie Brothers chapter. He said to me, it's really, really hard to get performances out of non-actors, because he worked with a lot of professional golfers in Tin Cup, and he said it looks easy because professional actors make it look easy, but it's not. And somehow the Safdie brothers managed to get these great performances, and it has this sort of verisimilitude. I mean, there's this great scene in their movie Good Time where somebody goes to a bail bondsman, right? And they went there to scout a bail bond place on Queens Boulevard. And they go in there and they see the bail bond guy. He's like making calls, and he's able to dial the number to the jail without looking at his phone. They go, "We want this guy." And his brother Benny goes, that was Benny Safdie goes, he was kind of that was the star of the movie. He's only in there for a minute. He was, being somewhat facetious, but, I thought that was amazing. He's in there. Heidi Fleiss is in it. I mean, it went great, sort of typical Advantage play. It went great till it stopped going great. But she figured out how to be a Hollywood madam in ways that nobody else had done that before. David Chesnoff is in it, the great Vegas attorney. He got Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson got pulled over and was in bad trouble, and they called Ches, and Chesnoff flew in. He goes, "Oh, Tyson thought I was a cop," and he's an amazing guy. Like, he figured out, he knows how to get people. He knows how to get the best possible situations for people who are in bad situations and how to get them to do what they're supposed to do. I mean, there was a situation with a Mike Tyson story at the New York Post that he basically, I got Chesnoffed. I mean, it was going to go one way, and then I get a call. He goes, "You didn't know I was still his lawyer, did you?" I'm like, "No." And then we talked, and we figured out a way. It worked great for me. It worked great for Tyson. It worked great for the paper. And it was I was like, wow, that's why this guy does what he does. And, I don't know anybody else who could have made it work out as quickly as he did on the day of Tyson's, the night before Tyson's last fight. And it was pretty extraordinary.
Another thing we did too is we had interludes between the chapters called sneak attacks. And these are like 2-pagers. So we did Ernie Moody, who developed triple play video poker. We did the Ramones.
I was going to ask about the Ramones. Yeah, I saw that you have them in there. And
okay, listen, the Ramones are total Advantage players, because that was at a time when everybody was sitting in their room spending how many years trying to play guitar like Jimmy Page. These guys knew 3 chords. They put out an extraordinary first album, recorded for like a rock bottom price. I mean, that is a total Advantage play. And they just started playing right away, and they figured out a thing to do, and they basically invented punk rock. Like, they went and played in London at the Roundhouse, and almost instantly there was all these British punk bands that all of a sudden were blowing up. I mean, so those guys had like Advantage players in them without knowing they're Advantage players. There's a guy who's like the best salmon slicer in New York. Slicing smoked salmon is not, it's another one of these things. Yeah, it looks easy. It's not easy. This guy is this genius smoked salmon slicer. He slices salmon at Siddell's. So if you go to Siddell's in Vegas, they've got great smoked salmon. It's because all those salmon slicers were trained by this guy, Jay. He's like the king of the salmon slicers.
Interesting. Anthony, you hadn't read all the stories originally. Like, these were people you interviewed, but Anthony, were there any Advantage Play stories in casino or out that surprised you? Or is there one that stood out?
Well, a lot of the stories, especially the casino, all of the ones that were outside the casinos I didn't know about. Certainly the ones that he's talked about. Did the Phone Freaks stay in there?
Phone Freaks are in there.
Yeah, the one called the Phone Freaks.
It was called Three Blind Freaks, Phreaks. And it's these 3 brothers. They were born blind outside of Tel Aviv, Arab brothers, and they're genius phone hackers and with a criminal bent. And they basically started their own phone company in an orange grove in Tel Aviv. And it created phone service for people on the Gaza Strip who had no phone service. But one wrinkle, all the calls were being routed through the Israeli army radio station. Wow. So they paid 0 money for the calls, and the people on the Gaza Strip obviously paid for the calls. And it was like it was pretty ingenious. And again, another Advantage play that was great until it stopped being great. And the older brother Rami went to jail, and Wired sent me out there to do a story about them. And the day I got there, there was a trial a hearing, and they said, "Yeah, we're letting you go." So they thought I was like their lucky charm. So I got a great interview with the Badir brothers.
Yeah, the non-gambling stuff. I mean, there was all kinds of new stuff. Now, the gambling things, what surprised me was his level of access. I mean, certain things with the Grosjean plays and Grosjean and Don Johnson and how these things all came together. I knew quite a bit about it, but not all of it. It's amazing that he, as a journalist, will be told more by these guys than we as peers sometimes are told. They don't want to tell us certain things, but they'll open up to him. You know, he's first of all, he's very pushy, you know, but he stays with it. But he is told things, and these guys, they don't care. They let him write about it, and I did learn things, yeah. And
Grosjean named a play after me, the Cappy.
Nice.
Yeah, Bullet. That's what Bullet always, because I did a play with them, and that's what Bullet always called me, was Cappy. And I found out, yep, they named a play after me. So I was like, of course, I don't know what the play is. It might be when everything goes to hell, this is what we do. So I don't know if it's complimentary or not, but I'll take it as a prop.
So if you had to define advantage play, whether it's on the felt or off, how would you define it?
I would say it's people who really think a lot about what they're doing, are really smart, like don't mind being have really thick skins, and almost have like this mentality of wanting to be an underdog that beats the overdog. Because, I mean, certainly casino advantage players, I mean, think about it. You go into a casino, just some guy, and you go into a casino that cost $1 billion or something to build. It's got millions and millions of dollars worth of surveillance equipment. There are all these people there to stop you from doing what you're doing. You do it anyway. I mean, it's that's pretty amazing.
My friend JC he was a professional AP for a number of years. He says, we don't find advantage play finds us.
Yeah,
that's good.
See, I think that's one of these things. I mean, one of the terms that somebody I interviewed used, we outhouse the house. And I think that's true. It's like, I think it's one of these things, like, it's almost like journalism. Like, you know, nobody really chooses to do it. You kind of have no choice. I totally agree with that advantage play finds you, because it's sort of an outlandish thing to think you could do. So I think you find it and you become so obsessed with it, you don't have a choice but to do anything else.
I think you're right. It's something you approach things. Everyone else approaches it like, this is how it is. This is how it works. And then there's people that look at it differently. They're willing to look different angles of the same thing and find a weakness or find a way to exploit it and attack it. Have the fearlessness to attack it.
Yeah.
You know, somebody told me once they described Grosjean. They said he's like the Rambo of gambling. They said you could put him in a casino with no money and naked, and he'd get the money.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he was one of the great. I mean, there's this great. It's like a little snippet in my book when I was with him in Shawnee. They were doing a play, and you know, he's in there just like some, you know, nebbish, you know, betting $5, and he's running the whole thing, obviously. And there was it was like a pretty low rent casino. At the end of the night, somebody, you know, one of the people behind the cards craps table would put on these giant black gloves and pick up all the garbage. And they knew him as AJ, which he later said to me, Ace Jack. And he, so AJ, the night's winding down. AJ takes the black gloves, puts them on, and he was down there picking up the garbage. And I hear one of the ladies goes to the other people behind the table, goes, AJ is so nice. And I'm like, wow. It's a pretty good act.
It's like Kaiser Sose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And The Usual Suspects, you know.
And
he's
he
like
walked
behind
out,
the
he
scenes.
walked out with a limp. Like, he walked out limping, and I thought his leg fell asleep. And I was like, oh, your leg fell asleep? He's like, no. And as soon as we were out of camera shot, you know, he's walking normal.
You just spoke at the World Game Protection Conference, and Willie asked you a really interesting question about why are people willing to tell you all this?
See, I think part of it is that these people excel at what they do, and they're so good at it. But the place where they're really excelling and in front of the people who would appreciate it the most, they can't let them know what they're doing. So I think talking to me, it's maybe a way of getting the props for what they do, which they deserve. I mean, could you imagine that being, well, you can't imagine it.
I can.
Being really, really good at something, and you can't, it's a way to talk about this thing you're really good at in an interesting way. Like, I mean, the blackjack ball is the one place where people could really, really show off their skills. And that's it's amazing. Like, when it gets to the final table at the blackjack ball for the competition, and you see what people are capable of, it's extraordinary.
And he also, he mentioned yesterday in the talk, he mentioned ego. And I mean, really, you know, when you asked earlier what defines an advantage player, I think they all have healthy egos. And I think they do want some recognition, and it's good for us. I mean, that's why we get these great stories, is because they want to tell something. They want somebody to know what they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, you spend all of your hours in a casino making sure people don't know what you're doing, or trying to keep them from knowing what you're doing.
And I think that's part of the reason why Grosjean does those books. And I once said to him, I said, James, I go, why are you doing these books and, telling everybody all this stuff? He goes, you think those are my only books?
Yeah. So that's one. But, his parents were both academics. And it's, publish or perish. In academia, publish or perish. And James wants to publish. And that's why he's doing books. But like Michael says, he's not giving it all up. He's got
other books. Don't worry.
Who else was like that? Ian Anderson, who did Turning the Tables on Las Vegas, and then did Burning the Tables in Las Vegas with us. And I asked him, I said, why are you giving all this up? He goes, because there's a third book. I'm not telling you. That's it.
Awesome. Well, we've got a link for people that want to buy the book in the description below, and buy it through Las Vegas Advisor or Huntington Press. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
It's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, this was great. This was a blast.